Breaking news, the White House facing fresh accusations against the president, and the word criminal is being attached to Joe Biden's name per a witness who has come forth. I'm Harris Faulkner. You are in the Faulkner Focus. A new whistleblower. That's a technical and legal term when it comes to evidence. This person says the FBI and DOJ have a file which allegedly links then Vice President Joe Biden to a criminal bribery scheme, an exchange of cash for certain policy decisions. The House Oversight Committee has subpoenaed FBI Director Christopher Wray for documents. They want Wray to turn over that specific file at a meeting that they will have 6 days from now, May 10th. Committee Chair James Comer and Senator Chuck Grassley are leading the charge on this.
We have a rough idea of what's in the document, and I just want to do what congressional oversight responsibilities I have to see what the FBI's and the DOJ's done to follow up on it. Has there been political influence to not proceed if there's reasonable possible criminal activity?
And this directly from the White House now. Quote, Republicans in Congress have been lobbying unfounded, unproven, politically motivated attacks against the president and his family without offering evidence for their claims or evidence of decisions influenced by anything other than U.S. interests, end quote. We begin with Peter Doocy, live at the White House. Peter.
That White House statement continues as White House officials claim that Republicans in Congress prefer floating anonymous innuendo amplified by the megaphone of their allies and right-wing media to get attention and try to distract and deflect from their own unpopular ideas and lack of solutions to the issues the American people actually care about. When it comes to President Biden's personal finances, anybody can take a look. He has offered an unprecedented level of transparency, releasing a total of 25 years of tax returns to the American public. Chuck Grassley is one of the people that sent this letter to the FBI and the DOJ. He says, I believe the FBI possesses an unclassified internal document that includes very serious and detailed allegations implicating the current president of the United States. What we don't know is what, if anything, the FBI has done to verify these claims or investigate further. And that's the key. Lawmakers have not seen this document yet, and congressional investigations to date have not produced any solid proof of wrongdoing by the Biden family. However, some in the Senate are already looking beyond the investigations and to possible conclusions.
It doesn't have to be a high crime or misdemeanor because the Constitution specifies that impeachment lies for treason, bribery, or other high crimes or misdemeanors. Bribery is explicitly noted in the Constitution. And I got to say, the evidence, not only against Hunter Biden, but the evidence against Joe Biden being complicit and profiting from this corruption is growing and growing and growing.
And we just don't know who this whistleblower is or what kind of a source would have talked to the FBI or the DOJ that would produce this document that now these Republicans in Congress want to see. Harris.
All right, Peter Doocy, we'll get into what we do know about that whistleblower in a moment. Appreciate you getting us started with your great reporting as always. The New York Post with wordplay goldmine here. Their cover today, Joe Bribin. Ben Domenech, Fox News contributor and editor-at-large for The Spectator. So, Ben, you see Republicans, and Senator Grassley has quite the reputation for how he handles so meticulously investigations. So we don't know all of what he has yet, but a lot of confidence coming from Republicans that he's got something, tying evidence into what could be charges against the president.
Well, Chuck Grassley has an excellent reputation when it comes to his meticulous approaches, as you just said. He's someone who does these things not in a fly-by-night manner and doesn't get out over his skis when it comes to the claims that he's willing to make. And that's why I think he's being very careful in what he's saying here about what he knows and what he believes is in this file that they are requesting. Keep in mind, just in the larger picture of things, Harris, we saw the full weaponization of so many different aspects of lawfare against former President Trump. We continue to see it used against him in very aggressive investigations where the investigations themselves were designed to disrupt his administration. We see nothing like that under Joe Biden. Instead, it seems like their approach is to use kid gloves, even though there are serious questions, particularly related to the financial pattern and history of Hunter Biden that could have benefited larger members of the family, that it seems like a lot of our bureaucracies are just trying to look the other way throughout this presidency in order to keep it from having any kind of speed bumps as it continues its policy approach. That's the kind of thing that Republicans on Capitol Hill are not going to stand for. They're going to demand answers, and we'll have to wait and see what's in these documents in terms of measuring how much they really impact and show the potential for real bribery in this situation.
Well, and in the majority, they can subpoena. And that's going to be a challenge for the Biden White House and administration at this point. Right now, and Peter did allude to this, I want to get more into this about the whistleblower. We do not know that person's identity. Here's what we do know, though, according to published reports. This would be a different person than the IRS agent who came forth just last month alleging the Biden administration is mishandling or covering up the investigation into Hunter Biden. This whistleblower points to an FBI form known as an FD 1023, which documents an interview with a source. The contents of that form or file have not yet been seen by Congress. Republicans claim that document is unclassified. So potentially, Ben, we'll know what's in it. And when we do, we'll know what Congress knows at that point, and we'll see if they charge the president.
Well, certainly, I think one of the things that is of note here, just given the fact that we have these different tracks with different whistleblowers, is that, related to Joe Biden, I think a lot of us have said, look, maybe there's proof of some unethical activity when it comes to the financial side of things, the implication that potentially that he was involved to a greater degree or aware of things that Hunter was doing that could potentially be illegal. What we haven't really seen yet is a direct quid pro quo claim that has been justified in a serious manner by the evidence. This could change all of that. It could be something that could change the conversation about whether there was a direct line between financial benefits for Joe Biden or the Biden family and decisions that he was making or influencing while in office. That's a completely different level of serious offense. And it's something that the Congress will obviously respond to.
Well, and it doesn't have anything to do with Hunter Biden and his shady business deals. I mean, that becomes a side hustle that is quite potent if the president is shown to have behavior that would be consistent with a crime. We don't know what we don't know yet. I do say this. Democrats are watching this, too. Fox News contributor Richard Fowler was on my Power panel yesterday, and he made an interesting point. I mean, even if it means subpoenaing the president, look at this.
What you have happening here over and over again is Republicans pointing to this drip, drip, drip worth of evidence on Hunter Biden. And my point here is if you have it and you have all this evidence, call a hearing. Subpoena Hunter Biden. You have the power to subpoena. And when you're done subpoenaing him, send recommendations to the Justice Department who have an investigation open against him.
Yeah, and he went on to say, because I asked him, well, would you want to see the president subpoenaed? And Richard said, yeah, whatever it takes to stop the drip, drip, drip. Now, there are two lanes why that might want to be the case, right? They're trying to get ready for a presidential campaign that could win re-election. This is a side show of its own that they can't answer to potentially in the White House. So that's one reason. Anything else you can think of?
Well, I think that the other thing is that they're learning from the mistakes that Democrats made over the past several years when it came to dealing with former President Trump, that they kind of rushed ahead with a lot of hearings where they didn't really know what the answers to certain questions were going to be. They created sideshows without actually getting into the nitty-gritty of issues, in large part because there was nothing there to be found, no actual evidence to support the kind of claims that they were making. I think this time around, Republicans want to get their ducks in a row. They want to know what they think actually happened before they start asking those questions of Hunter Biden and others who should be called and should be subpoenaed. I agree with Richard Fowler on that as soon as possible.
Ben Domenech, always great to have you in focus and get us started here with our first guest of the hour. Thank you.
Great to be with you.
Well, it is National Day of Prayer. Historically, there was a call to keep the President of the United States and Congress from asking Americans to pray. Alexander Hamilton said it was unconstitutional, but in 1952, it was enacted to occur every July 4th. President Ronald Reagan changed that to the first Thursday in May, and here we are. On the heels of the U.S. Surgeon General report this week that there is an epidemic of loneliness and sadness, I personally am praying for the youngest generations in America to feel our wisdom and our love. Whatever you may pray for, remember to be bold. Prayer is powerful. Coming up, outrage after the death of a disturbed homeless man in New York City. The video shows him shouting on the subway before a passenger was able to restrain him. Now there are calls for that passenger to face murder charges. Plus, Republicans pointing the finger at President Biden over the border crisis. I mean, have you seen the video and the live pics we've been showing on Fox News all morning long? And this is a week before Title 42 ends.
The 10 million plus will be here during his 4 years. 10 to 15% of the entire population will be in America illegally. That's a plan, and he doesn't care who dies or gets hurt to execute that plan.
The administration is sending 1,500 troops, or men and women from our military, to help process the thing. Without law enforcement authority, they can't even do their jobs or help the police there. In focus now, Senator Marsha Blackburn, Republican from the great state of Tennessee, serving on Judiciary, Veterans Affairs, Finance, and Commerce committees. Great to see you today. We are exactly where you said we'd be. We're facing an onslaught of people, and we're sending some troops down, but they can't even really do much to secure the border.
You're right about that. They have no authority. It is a show so that they can say they're doing something because they finally are having to admit they've got a problem. But in essence, they're doing nothing about this. Now, Harris, we have already had 6.3 million people come in on Joe Biden's watch. 1.3 million of those are the known gotaways, not the unknown gotaways, but the known gotaways. You've got terrorists, you've got criminal illegal aliens, you have gang members that are in these numbers. You have 40,000 people already assembled on the Mexico side of the border waiting to surge the U.S. border. And you've got 1,500 troops that are going to have to stand there and assist Border Patrol with pulling these 40,000 people onto U.S. soil. Now, that's what this amounts to. Think about that. They're not sending 1,500 people down there to protect the border. They're sending 1,500 active duty troops to back up the Border Patrol because the Border Patrol tell us we can't do our job securing the border. We're in the asylum business. This is a big part of the problem. So it's like 1,500 people to help with this surge. And the fact that this administration says, well, you can go to the app and make application to come to the U.S. All they're trying to do is find new ways to make illegal legal. And they're spending a lot of time on that. They're trying to normalize lawlessness in this country. And for the White House spokesperson to stand at that podium and tell the American people that they are really concerned about this, I think people see through that, Harris.
But let me get to her. Karine Jean-Pierre, the White House press secretary, was dodging questions yesterday over Vice President Kamala Harris's handling of the border, in particular because she's supposed to be the border czar, Kamala Harris. Let's watch.
What report card would you give the Vice President for her handling of the root causes of migration in Central America?
So I've learned from my predecessor to never fall into that trap of giving grades. What we can say from here is that the President appreciates and has been very impressed by her partnership in this administration.
That's not even a thing you'd say about a friend. I mean, you can't give somebody a comment about the job they're doing on an important day a week away from a surge?
Well, there again, their border policy has been to open the border and to allow people to illegally cross that border.
Well, it works.
And then their emphasis is trying to make illegal legal, and they don't want to address the root causes, and they don't want to address what Border Patrol has told us now for 3 decades they need. Number one, a physical barrier, and number two, better technology where they cannot have that physical barrier. And the border czar has been AWOL. She went down there one time, went to the wrong address, didn't go see what was actually happening, never went out on patrol with the Border Patrol, didn't go out and talk with people who are making this journey, didn't hear from them about how they've had to pay the cartels. It didn't go out and see the bracelets that the cartels are putting on these people. Didn't talk to people that have survived the sex trafficking, the human trafficking, the drug trafficking, the abuse that they are enduring as they make this journey. There is a lot that could have been done. This administration has chosen not to do it, and on top of all of it, we have a Department of Homeland Security secretary who does not believe in securing the homeland.
Let's pause there. You know he's supposed to arrive today. We're still working on the timing of that. Hopefully we'll know shortly. Maybe he's on his way now, but he'll be there supposedly today and tomorrow, which lets you know this is like a near FEMA situation. If he's going down there, it's got to be an emergency. And let's hope that when he gets down there, he listens to his men and women in the U.S. Border Patrol, because it's an embarrassment how he treats them.
Yes.
They'll tell you that on the record. They did with me. Senator, let's get to this point. A new poll finds that 50% of parents say their children's mental health has been negatively impacted by social media in the past 12 months. This comes as lawmakers on both sides of the political aisle are pushing to protect our kids online. Senator Blackburn, I know, along with Democrat Senator Dick Blumenthal, just reintroduced the Kids Online Safety Act. And so far, I understand that more than a quarter of the Senate have signed on as original co-sponsors. Tell me about the measure.
Yes, 33 of the 100 senators raised their hand and said, sign us up. We want to co-sponsor this, be an original co-sponsor. What this bill would do is require these social media platforms to have safety by design. So safety would be your default settings. It would require them to open these black box algorithms so that parents and also third-party researchers could look at this. They could evaluate the kind of self-harm, the abusive conduct that is taking place, the cyberbullying. They could get inside and look at what is happening with kids that are meeting predators and pedophiles and sex traffickers and drug dealers online. It would give a dedicated channel for parents so that they could report some of what is happening online to their children. And then, Harris, it would require these social media platforms to do something about it and to do it within a set period of time.
Oh, great.
One of the problems that parents have had is they will try to get help from the social media, and the social media company responds, 6 months later.
It's so true.
Child is dead, and they say this does not violate our community standards. We are changing this policy. Hundreds of organizations, thousands of parents and teens are standing with us. We're going to get the Kids Online Safety Act passed this year.
Yeah, and it's bipartisan. It's hard, I know, to get 33 senators to come together over something so quickly. It is the timing of this, and what you say is so true. Parents tell me as well, and of course I'm a parent of teenagers too, that the companies chill you. That's what they do. They just freeze you out by not getting back to you in a timely fashion when you can protect your child. Senator Blackburn, thank you as always for being in focus.
Absolutely.
Democrats on the Senate Banking Committee are trashing the Republican debt plan as the party looks to maneuver around the House Speaker Kevin McCarthy to avoid default and try not to get it pinned on the actual Democrats that might be part of the problem right now because the president won't negotiate. I could go on, but it's only an hour show. And the challenge of age issues become key in President Biden's 2024 campaign. Power panel next.
MAGA Republicans have claimed they are averting a catastrophe by setting up this rotten choice. Do not believe it.
Biden's Senate Democrats have sat idly by, watching the clock tick down to default by not thoughtfully engaging they hope to avoid a substantive debate on a very serious fiscal issue.
Well, why is that exactly? Democrats and Republicans are sparring over the nation's debt ceiling as a potential catastrophic default is looming. Democrats using the Senate budget hearing to air out their grievances about the Republicans' plan, which they put on the table. They did their jobs. They put a plan on the table. Republicans claim, however, Democrats have no plan of their own. Well, they must not have, because I'm sure we would have seen it by now, because, you know, why not? An op-ed calls out President Biden refusing to negotiate, saying he plays debt limit games as Uncle Sam rushes toward default. Fox News senior congressional correspondent Chad Pergram is live from Capitol Hill now with the latest on this and basically what's at stake, too, Chad.
Harris, good morning. They are running out of track to solve the debt ceiling crisis. A stark warning today from a leading economist on when Congress must act or the nation could face economic calamity.
By my best calculation, June 8th will be the day when Treasury can't pay its bills. There is a possibility, worst case scenario, that it will be June the 1st. It'll be very close.
Zandi estimates that a collision with the debt ceiling could cost the economy 800,000 jobs. He forecasts the jobless rate would climb by a half percentage point. Zandi recommends suspending the debt ceiling until after the election. Senate Republicans support the House GOP bill passed last week.
So all the barbs and attacks on the House bill today are meaningless. Everyone knows it. This is an opening bid. It's time for President Biden to stop playing politics and demonstrate real presidential leadership by negotiating in good faith.
Democrats lack a plan to address the debt ceiling. They've gotten criticism over their claims about the House GOP bill. They convened the hearing to rail against the GOP plan, but that could backfire.
But just the fact that you're having a hearing on that bill, doesn't that give Republicans the opportunity to emphasize their argument? This is the only bill that has passed.
Well, it'll be the first opportunity Republicans have ever had to emphasize it. This bill is so bad that they're afraid to do that. We're doing that for them. We welcome and relish the discussion in committee tomorrow.
Democrats are also facing blowback over their charge that the GOP plan would cut spending on veterans programs. If Congress does not curb spending, interest on the debt could outpace defense spending by 2033. Harris?
Yeah, that's what Senator Mike Lee told me yesterday. I mean, the opposite of what Democrats are wanting to do at this point is really what's necessary. You've got to start attacking that debt. You just have to do it. I know it's distasteful for them because they love spending our money. Chad Pergram, thank you. More people are speaking out about their concerns with President Biden's mental ability. Texas Senator Ted Cruz says this could be a factor in his refusal to negotiate, for instance, on the debt ceiling.
His mental faculties are too diminished right now to do what he did in 2011, to sit down and actually work together on a solution to the problems. And what we're left with is a bunch of young staffers in the White House, radical children, who are perfectly willing to risk a default on the debt because they have no appreciation of the chaos and misery and damage a default would do.
Boy, he can drill down those words, can't he? One headline says Biden's mental miscues shine a spotlight on the age issue clouding re-election bid. Tammy Bruce, Fox News contributor, host of Get Tammy Bruce on Fox Nation. David Carlucci, former Democrat state senator from New York. Great to have you both. Tammy, I'll start with you and what Senator Ted Cruz just said about the president.
You know, I think that if you're saying he can't negotiate on an issue, then he shouldn't be president. But they don't go that far. It's always been an issue about age, when this really is not about age. This is about capabilities and what you can do. At the same time, it's, you know, you have staff that can work on these things. The issue with the people that are running the country, I would contend, is not that they're radical children. They might be, but our problem is we don't know because they're anonymous. We don't know who's doing this. We don't know their experience. Now, Susan Rice recently left. She was in charge of domestic policy, things like this.
Well, always, by the way, a head scratcher.
Yes.
For many, because that wasn't her lane.
And also, we see with the condition now, suddenly she's gone and we're sending 1,500 troops to the border. You know, that kind of thing's going on. But the bottom line is, I think, is that you've got the Democrats really have not been governing. This is a governing opportunity. This is finally the first time where the Republicans have the House and they're going to have to talk, and they've never really been doing that on any issue since he was elected.
She looked at you when she said Democrat, so take it away.
Well, I see Ted Cruz. I mean, I know Ted Cruz is a lawyer. He's a current senator, but I didn't know he was a doctor and he can make a medical diagnosis via watching someone on TV.
Well, agree to a competency test, which is what Nikki Haley,
Nikki
GOP
Haley is
presidential
talking about
candidate, is asking.
She's saying how convenient. Let's have a cognitive test for anyone over the age of 75.
Why is that convenient?
Because
that
her biggest rival is Donald Trump, 76.
But that's everybody, because as Tammy just said, it's not age.
Well, it is age. They're saying at 75,
also,
you need to take this test. What's next? You're going to have to take a test to be able to vote? I mean, it's a slippery slope. I trust the American people.
Have you tried to get a voting license lately?
Well,
have you tried to drive a car?
Well, those are
like, you're going to take a lot of tests in life.
That's right.
I agree with David, is that the voters make the decision. We were watching a basement campaign. We knew what was going on. We see it every day. The Americans have judged him as incompetent. And the moment we get into an age-based dynamic, what's going to stop it from being any other category of identity?
Well, then take the age out of it?
Well, I agree. I think
test everybody. Make it equal. I mean, we want to know if anybody is going to be competent to be president.
And
right?
that's what campaigns are for. That's what the campaign is for.
Not if you don't debate.
That's correct.
Yeah, President Biden doesn't even want to debate with Democrats.
And we should expect another basement campaign that is cheating the voters, making them have to guess. But now there is a record when it comes to Biden's behavior, and the Republicans are going to have to move this along.
Speaking of the record, President Biden's re-election campaign is focusing on his economic agenda right now, and of course it comes with yet another video. Here's a piece of the ad. He's invisible. He's going to campaign from the basement. Tammy just said that. The latest Fox poll has nearly 80% of Americans with a fair to poor view of the economy. 70% feel that the economy is only getting worse for their families. 63% disapprove of Biden's handling of the economy. Those are some stiff numbers. And I know you often say, David, it's too early to look at polling. It's time. He's announced. He just spent 20 days on the road talking about the economy, and his numbers went down.
Well, we see that poll, and yes, the economy is bonkers. I mean, it's